Hi everyone, and welcome to this video on Inspector Calls. Today we're going to look at how to improve an essay, and we'll be focusing on Mr. Birling. So first of all, we've got to think, what is the examiner looking for? The most important thing is, do you understand the text? Have you read it? Do you know what's going on in it? Secondly, can you answer the question clearly and in detail? By detail, we mean 3 to 4 sides of paper. Often I see students who know a huge amount of stuff and can write beautifully, but they haven't written enough in the time, and therefore they lose marks for that reason. The next idea is, can you choose and use quotations to illustrate your ideas? Hopefully you know your quotations from the play. Can you identify methods? So by methods, we mean any deliberate choice that the writer has made. That could be a language device, for example, personification or dramatic irony, or it could be a structural device, for example, circular structure. Can you then explain why those particular methods are used? Can you link the text to the context? So, for example, World War I, the Russian Revolution. Can you use a range of vocabulary? And can you use accurate spelling and punctuation? Now, there are so many different things for you to remember to do there that often teachers will give their students a kind of structure for their paragraphs. And this is the P paragraph structure that I've got on the screen here. Now, different schools use different ones, and that is absolutely fine, but this P paragraph structure is the most common. And the reason why teachers use this is because it helps you to remember to include all the different things the examiner wants to see. So your point sentence covers, do you understand the text? Can you answer the question clearly? As in your point sentence, you're saying, yes, Mr. Birling is this because. So you're giving that direct answer to the question. Then you have your evidence, which says, can you choose and use quotations? Well, that's your evidence, isn't it? That's your quote. Explaining and analysing, can you identify the methods? Can you explain why those methods are used? Can you link to context? So that would all be part of your explanation and your analysis. And then the last bit is your writing technically accurate, vocab, spelling, punctuation, apostrophes in particular. For the first kind of 3 sections on the screen there, so from do you understand the text down to the context, you're marked out of 30 on AQA for that. And then for the technically accurate bit, you get a mark out of 4 if you're doing the AQA specification. We're going to start by focusing on this last bit. I've got a couple of tasks for you to do, and we've started by focusing on that because this one is the most straightforward to fix. Okay, so here's my top tips for technical accuracy. First of all, learn the spelling of your commonly misspelt words. Priestley, P-R-I-E. Often people flip those letters round and they put E-I, it should be I-E. S-T-L-E-Y, E-Y at the end. Capitalist, some people get a mistake with the I in the middle. Character, again, sometimes people swap an A in for an I sound. Dominating, again, it's the vowel sound that people often get wrong. Dominating, it's the I in the middle instead of an A. And patriarchal, the most common mistake for this is that CH sound. So practice your key spellings of those commonly misspelt words. Then capital letters. It is so easy to make a mistake on this when you're writing quickly, but you've got to get these right. Do not chuck away the marks that you should be getting for your technical accuracy. This sounds ridiculous, but with a capital P, make sure that it stretches up to the top of the line, that it is not the same size as the rest of the letters. Your capital letters have got to be taller. Then your apostrophes. So we're thinking here about apostrophes that are used for possession, which means that somebody owns something. So Priestley's microcosm, for example, well, the microcosm belongs to Priestley, so I'm going to put the apostrophe S in there. Mr. Birling's family, well, the family belongs to Mr. Birling, so I'm putting the apostrophe S in there as well. Right, this is your task then. Pause the video, take 3 or 4 minutes to copy the sentences down. Make sure you correct the punctuation and the spelling as you go, and then when you're done, start the video again. Right, let's look at the first one. So Priestley in the yellow was spelled incorrectly. I fixed that. Make sure you check yours really carefully. P-R-I-E-S-T-L-E-Y. In the first one, I'd also missed off an apostrophe, so we need that apostrophe in there because the microcosm belongs to Priestley, so we need the apostrophe S. Edwardian, England, we need a capital letter. Edward is a name. We're talking about King Edward here. Let's give the man some respect. So we're going to put a capital E in there. Mr. Birling, I know we don't feel like respecting him, but, you know, let's give him his proper title, a proper capital letter, a capital M for Mr. Right, second one, again, Priestley was spelled incorrectly here. So L-E-Y at the end, and also that I-E in the middle. Then Birling's family, we need a capital B for Birling. Capitalist, you can see in the blue, I spelt it with an A the first time round. It needs to be capitalist, so C-A-P-I-T-A-L-I-S-T. Right, the third one then, I've got Sheila's wrong. We need an apostrophe and we need a capital letter. So I've corrected that. And then I've written Presley in the first example, and it should be Priestley. So it was totally wrong. But actually, I see quite a lot of Elvis Presleys when I'm marking this particular question. Okay, so it's not Presley, it is Priestley. Capital P-R-I-E-S-T-L-E-Y. Hopefully, I've made the point clearly enough. Let's get our spelling right. Let's get our capital letters right and our apostrophes right as well. Right, so we're going to look at an example question then. And the question is, how does Priestley present Mr. Birling as an unchanging character? Here's an example introduction. I'm going to read it through and then explain to you why I think this is a good piece of work. So within his microcosm of Edwardian England, Priestley presents Mr. Birling as a capitalist and arrogant character continuously throughout the play because he symbolises greed and being self-absorbed as an individualist dominating in the patriarchal period. Mr. Birling is also used to condemn capitalism and to educate the detrimental effects it has on individuals and society as a whole. Okay, so this is something that a student might write in an exam. I like it for several reasons. Firstly, you can see in yellow they've spelled Priestley correctly and they've given him a capital P at the start. The P is taller than the other letters. So there we go, that's good. We're getting our marks for our spelling, punctuation and grammar for our technical accuracy. But I've also picked out the word because and the word and. Now, these words often don't have the importance that they deserve, but these words are so useful in helping us to extend our answers. When you're writing in the exam, you need to show the examiner every single thing that you know and explain every single thing that you say, because the examiner, they don't know you, they're not sitting in the classroom with you, they're not able to say, oh, what did you mean by that? So you've kind of got to do that for yourself by using words like because, like and, like but, like so, to give that kind of extended explanation. So here the student could well have stopped with presents Mr. Birling as a capitalist and arrogant character continuously throughout the play. They could have put a full stop there and thought, well, it's obvious, isn't it? But it's not obvious to the examiner that you know this information. So put the word because and then extend your answer out. Right, you're going to pause the video again and you're going to have a go at improving this introduction. If you have a look on the left, I've put an introduction that's okay, but it could be better. And on the right, we've got an introduction that has been improved. So if we look at the left first, within his microcosm of Edwardian England, Priestley presents Mr. Birling as a capitalist. He also symbolises individualism and selfishness. Priestley does this to teach the audience that capitalism is immoral. Okay, so pause the video. You can see on the right-hand side, I've split the introduction up into 3 little sections to give us space for the because and our greater explanation. So pause the video, fill in where those gaps are, and then start the video again. Welcome back. So let's look at the first bit. Within his microcosm of Edwardian England, Priestley presents Mr. Birling as a capitalist because he's only interested in making money, because he puts money above his daughter's happiness, because he sees his daughter's engagement as a way for him to join business ventures with Gerald. Anything like that would be good. Second bit then, he also symbolises individualism and selfishness because he thinks that him making as much money as possible in his business means that it's acceptable for him to exploit his workers, or because he diminishes the needs of his workers so that he can make as much money as possible. Okay, there's lots of other things that you could have said there, but those were just a couple of examples. Right, so going back to our good example, we've got Priestley spelled correctly, we've got the word because, the word and. helping us to extend our explanation out, so we're writing in loads of detail. Right, the next thing we're going to look at then is an analytical paragraph, or a P paragraph, whatever you want to call it. We're going to start with the point sentence. So at the start in the yellow, you can see I've signposted. So later in Act 1. Now, a signpost is just showing the reader, whoever's reading your essay, your teacher, your examiner, whatever, it's showing them what direction you're travelling in. So you might be saying later in Act 1, at the end of the play, at the beginning of the play. So it could be some kind of phrase that tells you where you are in the text. Or you could signpost by saying, however, similarly. So you could be showing the reader where your argument is going. Whatever it is, you need to signpost. Help your reader to follow your explanation. So later in Act 1, Priestley, look, spelled correctly, Priestley presents Mr. Birling as arrogant and self-important. So there I have answered the question in the pink. Because, look at that magic word, because he completely dominates the room. Okay, so that's my point sentence. Then I'm adding on my evidence. When Gould interrupts Birling's speech with a sharp knock at the door, we see Birling hold the room as he stops to listen. So I've put my evidence in. Then I'm going to explain a little bit about what that evidence means. In this action, Birling demonstrates his belief that everyone present should and would attentively listen to what he has to say and should wait for him to continue. Okay, so I've explained my evidence a little bit. Now I'm going to move into my analysis. Now when we analyse, we're doing two things. We're looking for the method that the writer has used, and then we're explaining why that particular method has been used. What's the effect of that? So I picked out the method in yellow here, and then my explanation in blue. So Priestley contrasts, that's my method, Birling's control over the room with Sheila's quietness to highlight the fact that whilst it is her engagement party, it is her father who is the centre of attention. So I've got my method, and then in blue, why it's used. Now you could end your paragraph there, but we always want to explain things in as much detail as we possibly can. So here's another sentence. Again, my method's in yellow and my explanation's in blue. What you'll notice about these methods here are that they don't have fancy words attached to them. It's not things like a synthetic list or extended metaphor or anything like that. That doesn't mean that they're not methods. A method is a deliberate choice that the writer has made, and Priestley has chosen to bring Inspector Gould onto stage at this point, and to do that by ringing the doorbell. So it's a choice that Priestley has made. Right, let's read the sentence. However, Birling's control is undermined by the arrival of Inspector Gould at the door. The ring of the bell signals how socialism has the power to interrupt capitalism, just as Gould interrupts Birling's speech and forces him to pause. Again, we could end the paragraph there, but of course we're not. We're going to continue and build on this a little bit. So I don't know why I've changed the colours here, but anyway, I've got the method in green and the explanation in yellow. So the sense that the power dynamic is shifting is amplified by the adjective sharp. Here's my explanation, as it seems that socialism will easily slice through the luxury and complacency of the fixed setting, and that Gould will open the door to a different way of thinking about the world. Okay, so look at the level of detail that I've got in that paragraph, and look at the number of methods that I've picked out and the number of times that I've explained why those methods are used. And if you're not quite sure how to pick out methods and how to explain why they're used, watch the other videos on my YouTube channel, and there's one for each character, and I'll go through it a bit more detail in those videos. Right, your final task then for this video is to pause the recording and improve this paragraph. So we'll read through it first. At the start of the play, Priestley presents Mr. Birling as being foolish. We see this when Birling tells Eric that nobody wants war. This means that Birling thinks there isn't going to be a war. The audience knows that Birling is wrong because actually there is a war in 1914. Additionally, Birling insists that the Titanic is absolutely unsinkable. Again, Priestley is pointing out how foolish Birling is because we know the Titanic actually does sink. Now, there's nothing particularly wrong with this paragraph. It's all correct. It's just that the student could say an awful lot more. So now I've broken it up. What I want you to do is you don't have to copy the whole thing down, but where I've put add explanation or method in yellow, I want you to jot down what you think could go into that gap. So pause the video, take about 5 minutes to give this a go, and then start the video again, and I'll go through what I've done to this paragraph. Welcome back for the final time. Okay, here's my improvements then. At the start of the play, Priestley presents Mr. Birling as being foolish because, that magic word is because he is overly confident about his own understanding of the world. We see this when Birling tells Eric that nobody wants war. This means that Birling thinks there isn't going to be a war. Through the use of, right, here's the method, dramatic irony. Dramatic irony, by the way, is when the audience know more than the characters. I talk about that in my other videos on Mr. Birling, so if you don't know what it is, go and check those videos out on YouTube. So through the use of dramatic irony, Priestley suggests that Birling is short-sighted. Priestley contrasts Birling's mistaken beliefs with Eric's understanding of the world in order to highlight how even a tipsy 20-year-old has a greater awareness of the world. Because Birling symbolises capitalism in the play, the audience realise that Priestley is pointing out that capitalism is not just immoral, but is also poorly informed. By poorly informed, I mean they don't have any information, they don't know much about the world. Additionally, Birling insists that the Titanic is absolutely unsinkable. Again, Priestley is pointing out how foolish Birling is because we know that the Titanic actually does sink. By repeatedly highlighting Birling's mistakes, Priestley reveals the depth of the patriarch's misplaced arrogance. Now, there's a lot of words in that final phrase. Patriarch, I did use the word Birling quite a lot, and I didn't want to just put his name in again and keep repeating the same thing. So patriarch is nice. The patriarch means the father of the family. So that's Birling. Misplaced means it's mistaken, and arrogance is someone who's rather full of themselves. Okay, so those are my improvements. You've probably done something rather different, and that is absolutely fine. There are so many different ways to approach English and writing an essay, and that's one of the things I love about the subject. So don't stress if your ideas were different from mine. The key takeaways from this video then are: make sure that we get our spelling of key words right, we get our capital letters and our apostrophes right. Make sure you write in enough detail, so we're looking for 3 to 4 pages. And the way to write in detail is to use words like because, and, but, and so to extend your answers out. And if you don't know the information that you need to explain the characters, then watch the other videos on my YouTube channel and they will help you out. Okay, thanks very much, folks.